But the mic is hot. We're live on the air. Give everybody a minute. Of course, we've been posting up about 5 or 6.
Yes. Hit buttons.
And good morning. How we doing this morning?
Well, not.
We don't need that, do we?
No, we don't. That's that's a fourth wall break inside of a fourth wall. So, and we'll get to it, but I want to just start off by addressing it. Somebody actually left a comment on our stream yesterday that said, "Man, you guys are behind the times. Nancy Pelosi pushed through an emergency vote in order to get the bill back on the floor so she could get it passed." And it's like, look,
that happened after we did a show about what happened on Thursday. That happened yesterday.
well, theoretically, she started the rules change process the night before, so if you wanted to be like really pedantic and
Sure.
yeah, so and I take all criticism, but at the same time, like I wanted to tell the guy, it's like, look, bro, live is hard mode, right? We also have full-time jobs, so we'd like to keep up with everything, but even people who do this full-time can't keep up with everything, So we did have a couple of people join us. We've got Danielle Munoz of the TPS report.
Danny, what the hell are you doing? Don't you have a show to do in like an hour and a half?
She can put us on the in the background while she eats her eggs. That's her.
Oh, we're background. I see. Love you, Danny.
Well, it's better than not getting put on.
Damn right it is.
And Anarchy Television, and I'm really making the effort here to say TPS report. It's the truth is I leaned on the joke because I just got so used to calling you by that other name. It kept slipping out, and I would try and cover it by making an offensive joke, and then, so whoops, I guess it was offensive. But before we get to all that, we've got an example of why, let's see, why diversity hires are bad, or why affirmative action is bad, or why when you say, I'm totally going to hire somebody, for, because they're a black lesbian, maybe you should hire people because
they're good at jobs.
They're good at jobs.
Yeah, believe it or not, I've met a black lesbian or two that are good at the job. The black lesbian thing was completely irrelevant to the, I don't know,
the anything.
The job.
Yeah, the anything. Like, who cares? It's not us that are obsessed with sex and race. They say that it's us that are obsessed with sex and race, but it is in fact not us.
So let's just go ahead and run the clip and show you why it is that being black and lesbian is not sufficient cause for somebody to get a job.
Screen. An official who is associated with Chinese state media is suggesting that if Speaker Pelosi tries to go to Taiwan, her plane could be shot down. Does the president have a response to that?
I've been asked about, I know you're asking specifically about the rhetoric that we're hearing from China.
Okay.
God damn it, Deucey, why do you gotta ask me a question that's hard?
I don't even have to get any further than that. You've seen enough right there. We were saying, she was hired based on not even immutable characteristics, because there's a good argument to be made that the orientation is by choice and therefore not immutable. But she was hired on D.I.E characteristics. D.I.E, the cult of D.I.E, diversity, inclusion, and equity. D.I.E.
Oh.
So the cult of death, the cult of infanticide, the cult of segregation, the cult of D.I.E. They picked this woman based on these absurd characteristics that are absolutely irrelevant to the job. And what they got is a person whose title is speaker, right? Press secretary. Her job is to speak to people, to communicate, right? They hired this woman for a job in communications. And this is what you get.
I've been asked about, I know you're asking specifically about the rhetoric that we're hearing from China, but as it relates to the speaker's travels, it's something that we're just not going to speak to right now. That's a hypothetical. We're just not going to speak on her schedule. As we have said multiple times, we give advice and guidance to any members of Congress where they travel, to the region they travel, whether an advice on geopolitical situation in the region or in the country, and any national security issues that may arise. But again, I'm not going to speak to a hypothetical.
Okay. So much wrong with that. And not least of which is, sweetheart, there's no hypothetical here. I'm not going to speak to a hypothetical. It's not a hypothetical. We're not saying, hypothetically, if China were to threaten to murder one of our politicians while en route to visit a separate country, is there a response to that? Not hypothetically. No. China threatened to shoot down Nancy Pelosi's plane if she flies to Taiwan. Now, when we say China threatened, I'll clarify a little bit. The Chinese state media outlet published that China would shoot her down if she tried to fly to Taiwan. But understand something. In the United States, we make allegations and we suggest that organizations like CNN, MSNBC, and the like, these obviously biased left-wing organizations, are essentially government mouthpieces. They're essentially state propaganda media. And that's something that is absolutely in evidence. Right?
Oh, they brag about it. Oh, we're in communication with the White House for how they want their talking points.
And we see this bizarre incestual back and forth between the Democrat National Committee, the White House, and these various media outlets.
Like Jen Psaki.
Right. And it's so patently and painfully obvious that the majority of U.S. public media is controlled by the left-wing murder cult. But it's covert. Right? As much as they come out and say it, it's not the official policy of the government. And the government doesn't technically own those entities. When you say the Chinese state media made a claim about actions being threatened by the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army of China, what you are saying is that the Chinese Communist Party has used their essentially speaker position, their press secretary equivalent, right? The Chinese state owns the media in the very technical and real sense of the definition. It's not the, oh, look, there's obviously some hanky-panky going on between the media and the government. No. The media in China is a government entity. So if the media makes a statement, that is the same as their government making a statement. And there's not an argument to be waged against that. So you will hear some quibbling over that detail in some of the arguments that come forward. But the fact of the matter is that if the Chinese state media says China will do X, that's because China told them to say it.
Right. So
it's like saying if I tell you I'm going to punch you in the face and then I punch you in the face, that you couldn't be sure because it was my mouth that said it and not the fist.
So a couple of things before we move along. You know what the correct answer to that is?
Let it happen?
Yeah, we'll get there. If I had been asked that question, if I were the press secretary, I would have smiled and I would have said, I'm sure that was a mistake. There's no way that China is not intelligent enough to understand that that would be a terrible error for them to make. That's what I would have said.
That would be
give them an
politically effective.
Give them an out, but draw the line in the sand. Like, no, we're not going to play fuck games with you, Chi-Coms. We're not going to do it.
It's probably more likely that China ordered Pelosi to go to Taiwan because it's time for her to retire.
Or they wanted to have this soundbite to where they could make us look bad.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, this is, to a certain extent, this is not terribly different than what happened with Brittany Griner. Like, yes, Griner's guilty. It was stupid of her to try and bring pot through a Russian airport, but the real reason they're going after her is to slap the administration in the face. And it's the same thing here. Like, look, for better or worse, Pelosi's third in line. If something were to happen to Joe and Kamala, it would be President Pelosi. So they not only threatened one of our politicians, they threatened a pretty high-ranking politician. Yep. Like, it's an insult. It is a deliberate insult. And I just want to acknowledge real quick that Fish and Golf and Guns joined us. So good morning.
And yeah, absolutely. Making a threat against Pelosi, as much as I just will not spill a single tear or drop of beer if Pelosi were to be crashed down into the sea. The fact is, what you're talking about here is a declaration of war.
Oh yeah.
Right? Now,
That's what that would be. Absolutely.
yeah, and the correct maneuver here, they're not going to do it. The Chinese are not going to shoot down Nancy Pelosi. Because that would absolutely be an outright declaration of war. And I don't think they're ready for it. I know
They're getting there.
I know that they're not ready to engage in actual open war with the United States on a military and technology level. They just aren't.
But they're getting there. And this is them sticking their toe in the water.
And so I would like to see Pelosi just straight say, you know what? I dare you, and fly to Taiwan.
I dare you. I just fly to Taiwan. I just drink my communion wine on the plane. Because bird baths. Because, okay.
Oh, Corvo Blanco's back with and he's got gay jokes. Aren't you adorable?
No, we already had a gay joke. We played Mean Jean Perrier, whatever her name is, like
Mean Jean, the fizzy water bottle.
whatever she is, like the diversity hire. Crackshot joined us this morning. Good morning, sir.
I think you mean the diversity hire.
Your
Yeah.
your dad jokes, man. Your dad jokes. Look, you know, we said with Brittany Griner, and I'll actually adopt this position unironically. Okay. We said with Brittany Griner that while she is a communist, whiny piece of ungrateful shit, she's our communist, whiny, ungrateful piece of shit. She's still an American. And I don't want to see any American prosecuted for a drug crime ever, period, end of sentence. Nancy Pelosi is still technically an American. She is Speaker of the House. Like, China shouldn't even let these words come out of their mouth. Like, this is the kind of thing where, like, listen, Rice Boy, you need to take the bass out your voice if you're going to say something like that. Okay? You're about to make a terrible mistake. And yes, I just said a whole bunch of terribly offensive things all in one sentence. And I did that on purpose because, China sucks, and for some reason, the whole world was like, no, they're fine, they're coming around, or they're pretending to come around so they can steal a bunch of our patents and lock up the rare earth market and maybe possibly implant viruses. Computer viruses. No other type of virus would China do on purpose.
No.
But
the Wuhan labs are famous for their computer viruses. And mafia affiliations.
But computer viruses on all of your technologies, so they could spy on you. And I'm sure that whole TikTok thing is. Don't even worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. But for all the people that say, "Haha, Nancy Pelosi gets shot down by China. Time to crack open a bottle of scotch," I'm actually going to say, be careful taking that position. If China can get away with doing that, we may as well go ahead and cede everything else to them now and hope they'll allow us to be slaves in peace.
Right. Because what it means to cede ground on China generally is to abolish the U.S. Constitution.
And be okay with slavery. I don't know if paying somebody $1 a day to build your iPhone is slavery. It's probably closer to indentured servitude, but we're quibbling over details there. So, is that enough? Can we talk about the other thing?
To the other thing.
Because we're very, very sympathetic as to why it would be funny if Nancy Pelosi got shot down because of shit like what we're about to get to next. Oh.
Sorry. I have to send an emergency text message right now.
Emergency.
Yeah, it's an emergency.
Right.
Okay, so.
Well, I brewed some Kona before the show started.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, and some of that vanilla macadamia nut stuff.
And it slid right on by.
Well, no, it's going to be nice and
fresh. No, I had a full cup of coffee when we sat down to do this just a minute ago.
Yes. Okay.
And now I do not.
So Nancy Pelosi, boy, so we got a comment on our show yesterday where somebody was like, "Oh, you guys are behind the times. Nancy Pelosi changed the rules so she could push this vote through," and it's like, dude, we know live is hard mode, and when we decided to talk about the bill failing because Chesty Pants Nadler said that well, the goal is to ban firearms that are in common use. Like that was the point we were going for, is that he said the quiet part out loud. Okay. Yes, Nancy Pelosi changed the rules, and yes, now 1808 has been passed by the House. We're tracking, but live is hard mode. So why don't we start with the summary? Would you like to summarize for us, sir?
Yeah. So here we go. Summary. House Resolution 1808. This bill makes it a crime to knowingly import, sell, manufacture, transfer, or possess a semi-automatic weapon. Saw. Oh, there's a cute little trick right there.
It's a saw.
A semi-automatic weapon or large capacity ammunition feeding device. Okay, this right here, they're doing this on purpose. Semi-automatic weapon, abbreviated as SAW. There is a very popular machine gun that's used by the U.S. military, the U.S. Army's M249. It's a 5.56 caliber fed, small, crew-operated squad automatic weapon. The SAW.
Yeah, bullet hose.
Yep. It's a beautiful bullet hose. It's very effective.
It's like a water hose.
I've had a great deal of fun with a SAW in combat. So this abbreviation of semi-automatic weapon to SAW in here is not an accident. That's more Russell conjugation for you. That's more attempts at manipulating your emotional response to the claims. The prohibition does not apply to a firearm that is, 1, manually operated by bolt, pump, lever, or slide action, permanently inoperable.
Well, thank God for that.
An antique, or a rifle or shotgun specifically identified by make and model.
Oh, so we can totally get certain things exempted if we ask for permission to get them exempted. That's not spooky at all.
If it please the crown, may I please enjoy some rights?
Yes.
No, rights are for rich people.
No, my Kimber that I paid $2,000 for. Can I keep using it, please? Can Kimber continue to be exempted, please? Oh, the bill also. Yeah, go ahead, keep going. No, please.
The bill also exempts from the prohibition the following with respect to semi-automatic weapons or large capacity ammunition feeding devices: importation, sale, manufacture, transfer, or possession related to certain law enforcement efforts or authorized tests or experiments; importation, sale, transfer, or possession related to securing nuclear materials; and possession by a retired law enforcement officer.
Oh, so if you work for the government, it's totally cool for you to not follow these rules.
You'll notice it says retired law enforcement officer. It does not say retired military officer.
Isn't that weird?
Doesn't say retired veteran, right? Let's not forget it was what's your name? Feinstein. Feinstein said PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a mental disease that is suffered by every person who has ever served in the military, and no one with this disease should be allowed to carry a firearm, to even own a firearm. And Heller versus DC, the dissenting opinion by the radical activist left on that decision was that there is no right to keep and bear arms. Not that there are reasonable restrictions, that the government can enforce gun control. No. Their opinion was the government doesn't need gun control laws because it's already against the law for a citizen to own a gun. And their reasoning on that is because the word militia appears in the Second Amendment, that only the government is allowed to have firearms and the agents of the government. And that's, I suppose you can read it that way if you're a fucking liar.
Have you seen the meme that says Kyle Rittenhouse put down 3 targets with no friendly casualties, and Elijah Dickin, thank you. Elijah Dickin got 8 out of 10 hits and put down the threat with 0 friendly casualties. I don't ever want to hear again that you must be trained by the military in how to use these weapons properly.
Right. And, you know, in both of those cases, you're talking about somebody who spent time with their weapon. They did go to the range. They did practice, right? So, no, they weren't trained by the government. They weren't trained by the military. And I have personally run battalion-level training ranges and seen things like, one time I came up behind this soldier who was having some trouble with her weapon. And I got big laughs from all the cadre standing around when I slapped her on the helmet and I said, "The bullets go toward the enemy, dumbass." And she looked down and she flipped her magazine around and put it in the weapon correctly.
Oh.
She couldn't get it in there because she was pointing the bullets at herself. She had her magazine backwards. This was a staff sergeant in the United States Army. So, you know.
So, before you go back to the summary, because we come to my favorite parts of the summary up here, okay? Anarchy Television has a couple of comments. He's got one that's funny. Dianne Feinstein, Chucky Schumer, Maxine Waters all need to be on that plane when Pelosi goes to Taiwan. Well played, sir. And then Crackshot has defined...
I bet we could organize that if you just get enough cocaine.
And children.
It'd be like cheese in a mousetrap.
Again, like children.
Yes.
Not going to say why, but probably involves children. And then Crackshot has defined militia, a military force that is raised from the civil population to supplement a regular army in an emergency or a posse.
Yeah, that's one of those where they've changed the definition because a militia does not necessarily exist to supplement a regular army. It can.
But it's not a...
But a militia can exist entirely on its own.
But it's not a recession, Chris.
I've got a bridge in Arizona to sell you. So, the bill permits continued possession, sale, or transfer of a godfathered saw.
Godfathered. Sure.
Which must be securely stored. A licensed gun dealer must conduct a background check prior to the sale or transfer of a grandfathered semi-automatic weapon between private parties. Okay. No. Let me be very clear on this. That language right there is a violation of the law.
That's what they've been going for a long time. They call that the gun show loophole. But that's the one that they've been going for a long time. They don't want for you and I to be able to buy, sell, trade, or loan firearms back and forth to one another. They want to destroy gun culture, which is a thing that exists. There is a gun culture. The first time I fired a .45 caliber round, I was 8 years old, and I did it with my father. And there are so many other people in gun culture that have a similar story to tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the first time I fired a weapon, it was a 12-gauge shotgun, and it was with Dad in the backyard. But it's talking about private sales between private parties. I dare you. Go grab your Constitution and point to where the federal government has the authority to regulate private activities between private citizens. Because I can point to the section where it explicitly prohibits that. That's called the 10th Amendment. And nowhere in the Constitution is it ceded by the people to the government the authority to regulate trade between ourselves.
Bing. I know we heard that. I wonder if they heard it. That was interesting. Oh man, but it gets better. It gets better.
Yeah. The bill permits continued possession but prohibits sale or transfer of a grandfathered LCAFD. So you can't even transfer. So like, okay.
So I could sell you the AR.
Exactly. I can sell you the AR, but not the magazine.
Yeah, exactly. That's brilliant. So basically, I could sell you a $2,000 club if it goes through a background check. And then what's the definition of a large capacity? Because we've talked about this before, what they define as a large capacity magazine.
There's one. Grab it.
We just call...
It's right over there behind the deck of cards.
Can we touch that on a live stream?
Hell yeah.
Are you sure? As long as it's not a pew. It can just be one of these.
It can be a pew for instructional purposes. That is a 30-round magazine.
Which is a normal capacity magazine.
This is the magazine. This is a magazine that comes with. Okay, well this one's a little updated. This is a P mag, and it has that wonderful window so that you can see the bullets. And this one is not full. It's this one with about 10 rounds in it. But this is a 30-round magazine, basic standard magazine. That is what they're referring to when they say large capacity ammo feeding device.
Well, and they'll do certain things, like some of the more liberal states have done things where, like, oh, you can only have so many bullets in your pistol, which makes certain guns that are very popular, like Glocks and Berettas, illegal.
Right.
Right? Like when your gun is designed to hold 15 rounds and the state says, no, you can only have 8. You now functionally don't.
Right. Exactly. The handgun that's designed to hold 15 rounds, if it's, oh, well, the gun's okay, but you can only put a 10-round magazine in it. Like, no.
That's not how it works.
You can't put a 10-round magazine in this weapon. The magazine, there's not a 10-round magazine for it. Well, maybe somebody will make one. They just make a 15-round length magazine that has a stopper in the bottom of it?
I mean, I guess. And I wouldn't even be surprised if those kind of things come online, some kind of modification you can even do at home, so that, no, it's compliant. There's a stopper in it. Can't hold more than 10 rounds.
Yeah, and you know that the court is going to argue on that, oh, no, that's designed to be a 15-round magazine. You've illegally modified it.
So,
but I illegally modified it into legal compliance.
All right, so the last couple of things is
Alex says, I believe they defined it as 15 rounds for this bill. That's psychotic.
So the last couple of points that are important, according to the government itself, is that everything that's manufactured from this point forward that is a SAW or an LCAFAD has to have a date of manufacture on it, because you see, if it's brand new, you got to be able to prove that it's brand new. And I'm sure that won't be used at all to bite you in the ass. Be like, no, I bought this magazine 5 years ago. Yeah, prove it. Well, I can't. When I bought this magazine, it never occurred to me that I would need to keep the fucking receipt in perpetuity to prove to you that it's absolutely legal. Oh, well, then I guess we're just going to have to take it away, and if you don't shut your mouth, we're going to arrest you for federal gun crimes.
No. And if you don't shut your mouth, we're going to murder you. Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit before. We've talked about this a lot before. I want to make sure that this is clarified for everybody, that you understand this particular point. When we're talking about gun control, especially, but anytime you were talking about the force of law, understand what it means to say that you will be arrested. It is the same. It is identical with the government threatening to kill you. Because law does not have any force unless the government is willing to kill you in order to prevent you from breaking the law. That fact is a large precursor to why they are so interested in taking your guns.
Well,
The reason we have a Second Amendment is to defend ourselves against people who would murder us.
Yeah, well, there's actually case law and precedent, man. Again, with the left, and they do things and they rely on things, and sometimes it bites them in the ass. There is precedent where people have claimed self-defense even after shooting cops in botched no-knock warrant raids and stuff like that, which is a thing you can only do if you're armed. And again, go back to that whole thing with the trucker strike in Canada, where they were like, oh, we think some of these truckers might have guns, so we're just going to let them protest.
Right.
Oh, you think they might have guns? That's all it took, was the threat. And you let them exercise what is a protected First Amendment right in this country. Oh, it's funny that. So that whole threat of death swings both ways. Oh, I see. So they are, in fact, coming for your guns for that exact reason. And then finally, there's some cute language that says they'll totally buy back your weapons. They've even authorized the funds for it. I'm going to force you to give me a thing. You're not going to have a choice. I will kill you if you don't give it to me. But don't worry, bro. I'm going to stroke you a check.
Yeah, and I'd love to see. I'd love to see if they're going to stroke me a check for the value of the actual firearm. They, spoiler alert, they won't. It'll be some ridiculous pittance.
Well, we spent a lot of time going. Let's talk about the absolute pieces of shit that we have to thank for this.
Yeah, so we'll start with this votes by party. So you got 215 to 208, or I'm sorry, to 213, because you got 215 Democrats for and 2 Republicans for. We actually have more Democrats cross the aisle to fight this bill than we had Republicans, and 1 Republican voting. Just not voting, right?
Oopsie poopsie.
So all it would take were these 3 shitbag Republicans to show up and do what they said they would do to defeat all these Democrats that refused to do what they said they would do. Clarification. I don't know if these 3 Republicans specifically said that we will vote against every measure of gun control that is attempted to be passed. What I do know is that not one of these Republicans is sitting in the position that they are as representatives in the U.S. House without having raised their hand and saying, I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Right? So it's obviously it's not just these 3 Republicans. There's also the 208 Democrats. Or I'm sorry, the 215 Democrats that did not do what they said they would do, which is to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution. As far as I'm concerned, every one of these 217 votes and the no voter have just committed a crime. They've just committed treason under Article 3, Section 3, and they've committed the crime of deprivation of civil liberty under color of law. Both crimes, in this case, carry the death penalty. Try them for the crime.
So, Danny from the TPS report, I'm going to be able to eliminate the pause eventually, says, think about the linguistics of buyback. We will force you to sell us back something that was never ours in the first place.
Correct. It's not as if we purchased the firearms from the government.
Right. Right. Well, that's not how the government views it, though. Like, they grant us our rights. They're not natural. They're not endowed by God. No. The government grants us. They allow us to have our rights.
We've allowed our government to believe that it has superior authority to a citizen. And that is not... Well, no, it is the case now. It is the case because weak men for decades have pandered to social libertinism and been just weak, lily-livered sacks of shit who have never raised a weapon to defend themselves, the people that they love, their country, or their values. And that is not a good thing. So specifically, we want to take a look at these three Republicans.
Anthony Gonzalez.
Now he's the one that didn't show up.
He's the one that just didn't vote.
You just couldn't show up to do your job.
Or you couldn't show up to not do your job.
You're fired.
You absolute utter piece of shit.
Now, dear Ohio, get rid of him. Vote him out. Be done with him. New York, surprise, surprise. Chris Jacobs pretending to be a Republican. Wait, was it Gonzalez? Yeah,
it was Gonzalez. Yeah.
Anthony Gonzalez couldn't show up to do his job, pretends to be a Republican in Ohio, and is on the Committee for Diversity and Inclusion. He says he's a Republican. He's a D.I.E cultist. He's a member of the cult of D.I.E.
Yeah.
Chris Jacobs. Now, his credits are a little less damning, but quite frankly, a man who doesn't want you to protect your children is in the Early Childhood, Elementary, and Secondary Education Committee. This coward. Get rid of him, New York. Now, I'll be fair. I don't have a lot of faith in you if you're in New York. I don't have a lot of faith in New Yorkers. You're a bunch of commies. You're a bunch of weak, slick, sick communists. And I have no more patience for you.
Anarchy says government buyback. Government never owned my weapon. Also, government doesn't have money it doesn't take from everyone else.
Oh, clarification, Anarchy. It doesn't have any money that it didn't take from someone else at gunpoint.
Right.
Never forget that when you pay taxes, you do so under threat of death. Right? There's flowery language used to distance you, put steps in the kill chain, and make it feel like it's not there. But no compliance with any government mandate is ever done without the threat of death.
Right.
Brian K. Fitzpatrick, Irishman.
The Honorable Brian K. Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
Sure thing, pal. Sure thing.
Shitbag. Pennsylvania First District Republican. And his credits aren't as amusing as being a direct member of the D.I.E cult, but I don't want a coward like this involved in defense intelligence and warfighter support or intelligence modernization and readiness. Intelligence modernization and readiness. That's warfighter stuff. That's warfighter work. Right? That's the warfighter work that I did. Who the fuck are you? You sniveling coward. You would disarm the American people.
Yeah.
And you sit on these committees. You know this. America is just about invasion proof because it has an armed population.
A rifle behind every blade of grass.
Please, please, please land your ground troops on either shore. Even if you come at Commie, California, the gangs that have the illegal guns will eat you alive.
Yes, they will. Yeah, you want to unite the American people quick? Do that.
And now, in fairness, you will have two very different experiences if you land on the left coast versus you land on the right coast. If you land on the left coast, you will be obliterated by men whose active profession is drive-by shooting. You will just basically walk into a wall of bullets.
And shit.
But here in the South, we hunt. And up in the North, like Maine, they hunt. You land on the East Coast, you will be faced with an essentially infinite number of invisible snipers.
How many of these good old boys if they landed on the East Coast, would be like, yeah, I could use the deer rifle, but I'm bringing the compound.
Honestly, a lot of us would take the rifle and the bow and the shotgun
Right.
and the sidearm.
You look,
Like it'd be like playing Doom. Just like, okay, snick.
oh, okay. But yeah, those.
Yeah, and Danny, the fact of the matter is, while I know you hunt big shit out there and y'all have nice big rifles, I just don't think anybody's going to land on either of the coasts and get that far.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, long story short, those three pieces of shit right there, those three utter failures, absolutely tragic, treasonous, like Shakespearean levels of failures. Those three congressmen, whatever it takes, goodbye, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night. Okay? Fuck you guys. Really. I see what you're going for. I see exactly what you're going for.
And it can do it, but it's not doing it.
It's fine. It's fine. We've said their names. We'll when we repost this segment, we could even go so far as to I see what you well, it's close. Look, that's pretty good.
Victory. These shitbags right here.
These three shitbags. These three absolute utter shitbags. And I'm gonna say that of the three, Anthony Gonzalez is the worst.
Yeah, because he didn't even show up.
Oh yes, be ye hot or be ye cold, but if you are lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth.
And Alex points out the voters in those districts are most likely very anti-gun. You're absolutely right, Alex. The voters in those districts
why did they vote Republican?
Are bad people.
Then why did they vote Republican? Anyhow.
So
now it has to go through the Senate.
Now it has to go through the Senate. Okay, so there is a world where it goes into the Senate and it gets locked up on a tie, and Kamala Harris has the tie-breaking vote.
There's a lot of if coming off.
There is a lot of if coming off of that, and all that has to happen in the next basically 4 months.
Well, here's the other. I'll lay out
3 months.
Yeah, I'll lay out my prediction. I don't think this is going to get through the Senate unless they change the rules on filibuster.
Right.
Because this is such a winning issue for any Republican senator. You don't think Ted Cruz and Rand Paul could figure out a way to filibuster for months?
Yeah. And just putting it out there, guys, Teddy, you guys out there, I'm happy to just stand there and read Brer Rabbit stories on the floor until the election.
Yeah, remember when Ted Cruz filibustered once before, and he's like, I normally read my children a bedtime story, so I'm going to read, I think it was Green Eggs and Ham.
Yeah.
As part of, that was great.
Yeah, give me a call. I'll show up in a Hawaiian shirt and flip-flops, and I'll stand there with a straw hat on. Yep. And I'll break out the complete works of Uncle Remus, and I'll read it dialectically.
Wow, that's, boy.
That'll be the only thing you see on CNN, C-SPAN, MSNBC
for days,
for months.
Yes. So do
when I says morning, Taw baby, you says morning back.
So stop. I can do this. So I don't think this is going to get through the Senate, though. I really don't. If I had to make a prediction right now, I don't think that this hits Joe Biden's desk. And if it does, yes, it will suck. However, I think this will be another case of the left massively overreaching, because I think at this point, especially because of shit like this, you want to guarantee there's a red wave? Oh, this is how you guarantee there's a red wave.
And if it does hit Biden's desk, it will automatically, I guarantee you there are lawsuits filed on Trigger right now kind of like the trigger laws that we're waiting for Roe v. Wade to pass to get overturned. There are trigger lawsuits waiting right now. If the second Biden gets to sign something like this, lawsuits will be filed immediately, and they will go to the Supreme Court, and this will be just obliterated. And with the Supreme Court that we have now, they might go back to Heller and say, you know what? No, Scalia was wrong about there being reasonable restrictions.
Well, I'm actually going to take it a step further than that. I think if they change the filibuster rules, because that'll be what they'll have to do. Because even assuming they can peel off Murkowski and Collins and Mittens, that's still like 55 to 45. They can't break the filibuster with that. So if they change the filibuster rules, okay, we'll, if that's the way you want to play it, because what that means is when the red wave comes, and the red wave will come.
Yes.
And now there's not a filibuster. This has the potential to backfire so spectacularly. And I think it is time for our side to unashamedly start asking for things like, how about a repeal of all federal gun law? You mean the federal gun law that says, yes, whatever you're about to say, yeah, that federal gun law too. Well, what about... Nope.
Yes.
Well, what about... Just like that. And don't be ashamed of it.
Oh, no, not that one. Really? No, that one too.
No, all of them. Repeal all federal gun laws. There's the federal government restricting gun ownership in any way is, well, it's not only tyrannical, but gosh, it's racist.
And it's against the law.
It's almost like once upon a time the government said, we don't want these black people that are enjoying their rights that are on the ascendancy to have guns.
You mean white Democrats like these?
Well, with a name like Gonzalez, I don't know that he'd be white. Latinx people get really offended when you call them white. They also get offended when you call them Latinx. Oh, are we Googling this?
Oh, I already know what I'm going to find.
So, anyhow, I don't think, whoa, there we go. That's one way to...
I mean, he might have some Spanish blood back there somewhere.
Man, he looks like he should be an extra in American History X.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
But look, but to stay on topic and make the point, this is terrible. This is awful. But it's not the end of the fight. Now is when you call your senator. Okay? And you flood them. Not only do we go after the three shitheads, but you call your senator and you say, no, oppose the passage of this bill in part, in full, no compromises, no quarter given, period. Oppose the passage of this bill. You do not have the right to take away my right to have a semi-automatic rifle that I buy or sell or trade with my friends. Just period. And don't be stupid. Don't call them and cuss. Don't do crazy things. Don't give them an excuse to ignore you.
Damn, I was about to do exactly that.
No. You have to be reasonable. Don't make it easy on them to ignore you. You ever lose an argument with your wife where
No.
you were right, but you got angry and you started yelling, and because you started yelling, you lost the argument even though your point was correct?
No, actually.
Okay, well, you're the one. I'll get you a unicorn horn.
You know what? We've actually been on the air for an hour. That happened faster than I expected it to.
Well, there was a lot to get through.
There was.
So what's your prediction? Does it die in the Senate? Does the Senate
No, I think
overreach?
you've got it right. It dies in the Senate unless they change the filibuster rules, and in that case, it goes to the desk. Biden signs it, and then the Supreme Court strikes it down.
Look, we had some fantastic victories with the Supreme Court, but man, I'd be awfully worried that Clarence Thomas would suddenly have a stroke.
Or a gun attack.
I mean, I'm just saying, sometimes the water is actually turning the frickin' frogs gay.
Yeah. Yeah. If Clarence Thomas suddenly drops dead of natural causes, it's a lie.
Right. No, but if they do that, the overreach, they will reap the whirlwind. They will rue the day. And they'll have no one but themselves to thank for. Very much like with Roe v. Wade, where they used a shaky legal argument to make a thing legal that the majority of the country still doesn't think should be legal. Even when you see those statistics that say, oh, well, 80% of the country supports abortion. Well, 80% of the country supports abortion if, like, the life of the mother is at stake or there's rape or incest. But when you say abortion and when I say abortion, we mean two totally different things.
Right. Yeah, I mean, get 1,000 people in a room and ask the question, how many of you are pro-choice? And, you know,
most of them
let's
say
say
yes.
80% of them raise their hand, and you say, okay, you're sure now? You're totally cool with killing a baby right after it's born. And you'll have a lot of confused faces like, wait, what? Oh yeah, that's what they're pushing for. That's the argument. It's not life begins at some point between conception and graduation. It's children don't have rights if they're inconvenient.
Well, it's just the cops won't investigate a death for the first 15 days after birth. That's all. It doesn't. Not like anything else that can get abused.
Yeah. And we saw what was that the Michigan one?
I don't remember. Maybe that was Michigan. Maybe that was New York.
But it was pretty. I mean, it was super sketchy. It was the police will not investigate a death that happens within the first 15 days. That's essentially the government saying, no, it's cool. If you want to just take that kid home and change the diapers for a day or 4, and then you get tired of breastfeeding because your nipples are sore, you just drown it in the bathtub. It's okay.
Yeah.
That would be the law.
Nonetheless, I don't want this to get signed. I don't want this to go to the Supreme Court, because what happens is nothing is ever fully rescinded. It's sort of like once Obamacare worked its way through, even if parts of Obamacare were repealed, we were never getting rid of that entire law. We just weren't. And if this becomes law, it's going to be hard to get rid of unless, and I go back to my point, do not be ashamed to start telling your representatives, I want you to repeal all federal gun law. Period. Full stop. Oh, what? Oh, you mean a criminal should be allowed to own a gun? Actually, yes. Even criminals have rights. And the right to life is the most important right, because if you don't have life, you cannot have liberty and you cannot have pursuit of happiness. Oh, well, somebody committed a crime and blah, blah, blah. Okay, at what point in time is the debt to society paid? Oh, you make a mistake and you're caught making the mistake. Because let's be clear, not all, most of us have done things, thank God we were never caught for, right? Right? So
yes.
What? None of us should be allowed to own firearms ever again? That doesn't seem... I mean, we are talking about a group of guys that basically committed treason to found this country. Good thing they didn't feel like criminals shouldn't be allowed to own guns. So So push back. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. You're not crazy. Don't let these narcissistic pieces of shit gaslight you into saying that you're crazy, you're extreme. It is not extreme to want to own a weapon to defend your life, defend your loved ones, defend strangers, or even defend your property.
Right. It's not complicated. These 3 Republicans, along with all but 5 Democrats in the House currently, and the majority of Democrat voters, prefer Uvalde to the Greenwood Park Mall. They would rather,
Ooh, ouch.
they prefer to have 400 police officers watch several dozen children be murdered than to have a good man solve the problem before it gets out of hand. They prefer Uvalde to the Greenwood Park Mall.
Well, I mean, that's just like a 180th trimester abortion.
Oh. Thank you, dear.
I blame the power.
I agree.
Yes. Howard did go.
It
I
ruined
heard.
everything.
I heard.
And that's right. My wife gets top comment.
I wouldn't.
No, it's coffee. It's the only badge of honor I have handy at the moment. I don't have a coffee badge. I should get a coffee badge.
She said coffee bitch, not coffee badge.
Oh,
He got the.
fair enough.
Please don't make me laugh at things like this.
Just remember, I'm the one standing here with the hot coffee.
I'll add a coffee badge to the board so that I could send it out like a bat signal while we're on the show in the mornings. All right, happy
Coffee
Saturday,
bitch
guys.
assemble!
I'm going to wrap it up right there and go get a cigarette with my hot coffee. We love you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you Monday morning. You good?
No, I'm fan.